Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Super excited to be here with you today, and we have an amazing guest that we're going to be getting into some really interesting conversation. I have Kristi K Hoffman with me. So Kristi, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be here, Vicki.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled. We're thrilled to have you. And I want to thank our audience because we know that you have options as to what podcasts you listen to and where you might, spend that time and listening into things that are important to you. So hopefully, you're gonna spend more time with us at Women in Leadership Talk. And today we're gonna spend some time with Kristi, getting to know who she is and what her passion is in life. So let me give you some background on her before we jump into the conversation. So Kristi K Hoffman is an award-winning, Emmy-nominated TV host, media producer. She's a journalist, lifestyle influencer, podcaster, family woman, businesswoman, philanthropist, and best-selling teen social issues author of The Total Package Girl, Discover the Ultimate You for Life. She's created this lifestyle brand, Total Package Lifestyle, to offer tools for finding success by one's own definition. Kristi created the first PBS TV segment of its kind in the 90s as host and executive producer, and today she hosts and produces her business and lifestyle TV show, Business Life 360 with Kristi K, where she interviews success-driven people at their intersections of business and life. She's a corporate businesswoman, entrepreneur herself, and incorporates her ever-curious, smart, fun, savvy style with each interview. And her goal is to really give viewers and listeners a new perspective, resources for keen knowledge, and a deeper compassion and conviction to the things that matter to each human. She implores her audiences to embrace the notion that there's always more room to learn, grow, and lead. I love that, Kristi. And oh my gosh, you're so right. In spring of 2022, she dropped her new podcast, Business Life After Hours, where she continues her compelling guest interviews and takes a deep breath and a deeper dive into the lives and experiences and nuggets of those success-driven people at their intersections of business and in life. So Kristi, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here with us today. What a great resume you have.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so great to be with you. I can't wait to have a conversation.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled. We're thrilled to have you. So let's jump in. I know our audience is excited. We've got, I think a really great headliner today talking about some of the teen social issues and then how we support young women. But before we even go there, let's jump into a little bit about your background. You've done all these amazing things and continue to, influence and inspire others. But, what really led you to this particular space?
Great question. And again, thanks for being here. I love everything you're doing with your podcast. So this is a great conversation to be having. And I would say I have been in the space of girls since I was born. I grew up with 17 girl cousins, if you can imagine that. And I was one of the youngest. So I was like the scrappy one. I was that one that was always trying to go get it and have to earn everything I got. And so it was kind of that space of always striving to get what I wanted. So I think that's part of really how my personality is and kind of how it's taken shape my whole life. Not gonna lie. Some people asked me too, as I was growing up, did I see bullying? Did I see that happening? Was I bullied? Because I've really gotten into kind of the space of helping youth become confident and develop their self-esteem. And I was not bullied, but I think it's because I always had this inner confidence. And we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, as we go forward. But I really truly feel like bullying was my nemesis because I saw girls and boys being bullied, and it just used to make me mad. So I would find myself sticking up for those people as much as I could. But I also then, as I got into volunteering, my very first volunteer job was with the Girl Scouts. And I saw it was an art fair that I was involved with. And I think I was in my teens. And I saw these girls, they were from the inner city, and they were displaying these beautiful pieces of art that they'd drawn or painted or made. And I saw the confidence in their eyes, and I saw how just excited they were and how proud they were of what they had done. And I loved that. I thought, I want more of that. I love that. So that's kind of like my foray into volunteering with girls. And then I guess later on too, to answer the last part of this, is really getting into corporate America and seeing, as I got older, graduated undergrad, grad school, and really recognized the power of a mentor and the power of a
Mm,
boss who really leads and who really teaches and who really helps you grow. And I recognize that that's who I want to be. I want to be that person who pulls people to be the best they can be and to reach their potential. So I guess that's kind of
yeah.
how I got into the space. And I feel like I've always wanted to give back and help girls in their lives to be stronger and to feel really good about themselves. So
Oh,
now, yeah, now I'm in TV and a whole different set. It's business television. So it's kind of that segue there. And it's a whole different set of issues tied to body image and esteem and what you present and what you look like, which has never been something I've really excelled at in terms of, caring as much. But now I find that image and what people say about how you look and what you are wearing seems to be important to the audience once in a while, as opposed
yeah.
to content. So that's been a real eye opener for me as well. But I've been doing it for 15 years, so I'm used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're in an important space and have a big responsibility to influence, to inspire, to help girls see that it's not always about what's on the outside. It is really what's on the inside that supports us. And you were talking about that inner confidence. I mean, let's talk about confidence and, the impact that has on girls, especially at a young age. Like, you talked about yourself, like, you grew up with 17 cousins and all female, like you had to be a little bit tough, I would assume, just to
Yes,
even get your voice heard.
true. So true.
So
Hmm.
what have you learned through your research about, just what happens? Like, why do you think we have such a lack of confidence? Because I see it all the time in my work too with I'm working more with executives even, and somebody who can be completely confident in one aspect of their life and then not in another part of their life. But what are you uncovering through your research?
So that's another great question. I think first and foremost, the gift of self-knowledge and understanding who we are at a young age is really important. Understanding things like what we believe in, what our values are, our core values, and who we are, even at a younger age, is very important. Girl Scouts Leadership Institute has uncovered some significant research in this space tied to girls at a young age, as early as 10 years old, already being dissatisfied with their bodies, feeling they're not
Mm,
good enough, feeling they're not pretty enough, feeling they're not worthy of certain things, and actually even dieting and feeling like they need to change what they were born to look like. And these are disturbing pieces of research that I think probably likely things like social media, peer pressures, things of
mm,
that nature
mhm.
really contribute to that as well. So we're seeing a lot of these things where, you and I both have seen Facebook, Instagram research that has shown very much that the implications of whether it's cyberbullying or the pressure to post provocative photos, that type of
Mm.
thing really has an impact on girls and their confidence, their esteem, their how they present themselves and what they're bringing into their worlds.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And just to add to that, it's also the comparison, right? Comparing themselves to, oh, why am I not like Kristi, or why am I not like Kim or Susie? Like really that comparison and that reinforces I'm not enough.
Hmm.
So how do you see, we can do things to change that and help girls to really get to know themselves and the gifts that they are bringing.
Hmm. I do think that being aware of peer pressure and the fallacies that are associated with perfection is really important. And just knowing that what we're seeing online and what we are being presented with and all of that media that is coming into our brains and trying to plant seeds in our minds that we are not good enough. I think if we could be aware of the fact that much of what we're seeing is airbrushed. It's a fallacy. It's not true. And we don't have to be perfect. And, I learned that through the media and through television. I used to have people sending me emails, sending me even voicemails and saying, I don't like your hair. I don't like your shirt. Why don't you do more stories on cats? We don't have enough on this. We don't do enough on that. And the commentary tied to looks was shocking to me when I first got into television. And I think what I ended up realizing is that we need to teach our girls, our women, to have what I call in my book a power shield, whereby we say, okay, we're not going to let this negative energy in. We're not going to listen to those voices that may be toxic, that may be nasty, that may be sort of bullying. We're going to put up a power shield, and we're going to recognize that we're not letting these things in. Because, Vicki, we have the choice of what we input, what we take in, whether it's the food we eat, what we drink, the toxicity in relationships, the jobs we keep. We have all those things that we can bring in, or we can choose not to. So I think, to answer your question as well, really being able to keep that power shield up and recognize that we don't need to let some of those things in, and truly let's keep those at arm's length.
Yeah. I love that. I love the power shield example, because that gave me a visual, right? Like I physically saw the visual of, nope, okay, this is my space.
Yes.
I think oftentimes too, it's the understanding or asking, why would someone even say those things to you? Like what's prompting them, right? And maybe what you can do is share a case study with us, or someone that you've worked with on how you've helped them erect that shield and protect themselves from the nastiness that can sometimes happen, especially as teenagers, because that's a tough time in life.
Preteen and teen years are difficult, really difficult times for all of us. We can all look back at those times in our lives and recognize that. Something that I do that I'm really proud of, that I pour my heart and soul into, is a Girl Leadership Summit every year. And these are girls 11 to 17. We do a call for speakers. We bring girls in. They get to pick their topic, and they come in and they speak on whatever that is, or maybe they do a performance, or maybe they were very shy about their body image and they become ballerinas or dancers and they perform. It's really, really powerful. And some of the issues that I see and that we really kind of help girls work through are things like being ostracized. I made a list because this is really important. The issues that are really facing these girls: body image and body shaming, cutting, eating disorders, bullying, being ostracized, as I said, embarrassment about what they look like. Things like, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm really skinny. Nobody likes what I look like. I wear glasses. It could be any of the above. They're confused about their identity. We've had girls come out at the Girl Leadership Summits. They're shy. They don't use their voices. And a lot of times they're simply misunderstood, and they're perceived differently than what they really are like. And so what we do is we say, let's talk about these issues. And 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, there's somebody in the audience who's relating very well to that particular issue and that particular topic. And it's a celebration of who they are and who you in the audience, who you show up as. And I use this hashtag in my book, and it's hashtag JBU, just be you. So it's just really, the hashtag JBU is really powerful. And by the time people leave, they've met somebody. We have a reception afterwards where they might meet each other in the lobby, and we talk about, oh my gosh, I'm going through the same thing. And you would be shocked at how many people are facing issues that until that day, until that leadership summit, they never stepped out and said anything because they thought they were alone. So I think it's really offering them an opportunity to have a platform, to have a voice, to have a person in their lives who also is going through the same thing.
Wow, that's so powerful. I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about even the life lessons that you're teaching, right? Because it's not just about sharing and coming out with what's happening, but it's how to express your voice, how to connect with other people. You're teaching a lot of life lessons at 11 to 17, that's such a pivotal age in our young people's lives to develop who they can become, right? And those are skills
so
when
true.
you get into the working world, right? I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
both have experienced that, right? Where you have coworkers who are jealous and they ostracize you or they try to sabotage you. And so it's learning how to find your tribe, your allies that are going to really support and help you navigate those challenging situations.
That is pivotal in so many ways, because these moments that we have can either have us gain strength and move forward, or it can really cause us to really withhold and kind of withdraw from our passions and our careers, if you will, in the workplace. And I think to your point, trust is huge with women. And when you get into the workplace and you have a boss or you have a coworker who you're not clicking with, or you're not establishing that trust, they can really, really impact your happiness, your ability to thrive, your ability to excel. It even affects yourself, perhaps financially, in terms of moving up the corporate ladder, if that's the environment that you happen to be in. But, I say also, when you're in that workplace, I've had great bosses and I've had bosses not so much. And those great bosses, and I tell people all the time too, when you get into the workforce, and my young women in business and those leaders, I say, look for the teachers, look for the mentors, look for those who want to just take you under their wing, those who want to teach you, who want to help you be better, who want to explain things and put the time in with you. And those are the ones you want to focus on. Those are the ones that are going to be in your tribe. Those are those, they can be older, they can be younger, they can be your peers, they can be at the same level. But those are the people who have your back. In my book, for girls 11 to 17, still applies when we're older. I call them our true blues. The true blues are those who don't throw you under the bus. They're not going to, we've had those who do, right? In the boardroom.
Absolutely.
You're like, we talked about this ahead of the board meeting, and here we are. But it's those who are your true blues. They stand by you. They believe in you, and they have your back when you're struggling, and perhaps when you're going through something that is a difficult time, let's say in the workforce or in life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so important. And even as you were saying that, where my mind went was even looking at our young women, 11 to 17, when they're in school, right? Like even the impact that teachers have, or a principal might have on their lives, or a guidance counselor, like, when they're told, oh, you're not very smart because you didn't pass that math, and that changes that whole trajectory of where you can end up in your life, in your career, because then that reinforces that self-doubt, right? And
it's true.
What I love about what you're doing is you're helping young women question that. Why would that person say that to me? Right? And who would support me? Who can I go to that will support me outside of parents? Because sometimes we look at our parents and say, oh, my mom, of course, she's going to say that. Or my dad, he has to say that because I'm the baby girl, or, whatever. But it is finding that support system. And so, even as our audience is listening, thinking about, how are you supporting your teenagers? How are you supporting yourself? Right. And Kristi, I know you're really passionate about helping women. And being here today is one example of how both of us are supporting, women, because, we're both doing this. Yeah. And our passion is to, help elevate women's voices. And so oftentimes we find women isolate themselves, or they're not trusting, which is a big issue. So what would you suggest for finding more of your tribe? Let's say it's not work related. How do you go about finding your tribe at all ages and stages of life?
I feel that when we know ourselves, as I said earlier, that's really important, understanding our core values. And for me, something that's very important is understanding that, for example, for me, my core values are loyalty and respect and compassion and kindness for others. And so when I start thinking about my core values and what's important to me, and I start looking at what other people align with in terms of their core values, those are the kinds of people I am drawn to. Those who have similar core values to me, those who are loyal to me, those who show compassion and kindness at a time, as I mentioned earlier, where something isn't going well in somebody's life. So part of that for me is really aligning with those people who blend and match your values. That's really important. We've all been with the office gossip, and you're in the in the break room and or in school when someone's talking about somebody else, as these girls 11 to 17 experience all the time, or online. We know those aren't our true blues. Those aren't the people who are going to be in our, as you call it, our tribe. But I do believe very strongly that once we discern and take a look and maybe even a step back and see who those people are who are like-minded, we really find our people. And there were times in my life where I didn't feel like I was fitting in when I was growing up in school in certain grades. You'd have a grade where you didn't have your friends in your class or what have you. But I also looked to people like the teachers. My grandparents were some of my true blues at those times. But whoever it may be at that time who listens, who respects you, who helps you grow, I think those are the people that become our tribe and our true blues. And those are the ones we frankly learn the most from and we feel the most support from. And that builds our foundation for success in the future.
I love that. I love that. I love the true blues too. You said that earlier and I was like, oh, that's such a great way to describe the people in your life that support you. And part of the reason I asked that question is I was at a yoga class the other night and one of the women asked me, she goes, Vicki, how do you find these amazing women that you surround yourself with? And I thought, sometimes you just take that for granted, right? But to your point, I'm very discerning about who I let into my life. And, it's always putting out what you want to get back, right? So if you're kind, if you're compassionate, if you're an active listener, if you're expressing that, if you're loyal and trustworthy, then you're also going to attract those like-minded individuals in your life. So I love how you express that. Thank you. Thank you so much. So maybe share with our audience 2 things that you feel are super important for developing that confident mindset. And I'm sure we're going to have lots of moms on the show today listening. So what would you say 2 things could be that you start to work on with your daughter without her knowing that's what you're actually working on?
So, well, a couple of things. So a confident mindset or confidence mindset is whether we're girls, whether we're adults, whatever our age is, I think you plant those seeds at an early age, as we said, and they continue to grow. We hope they're watered and they're grown all the way through our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, etc. And we continue with that. And you're only going to give me a couple of these, probably, that I two or three seeds of confidence I can share. Thank you. All right. Thank you. But no, I think, what I said earlier about input, what we put in is really important and really helping our daughters to understand. And again, it's difficult because social media is their lives. That category is what it's all about. But understanding that what they bring in, whether it's their music that they're listening to, their friends that they're surrounding themselves with, their activities that they're choosing to be in or not be in a part of, those are all really important. And the more positive we can input, the better output we have. And that really changes and can change the trajectory of our lives. So to me, that's really big is being able to explain and have a conversation with our daughters in particular and our sons as well as to what we're taking in is really going to build a healthy foundation for us. So that's really important. And letting them know there's going to be judgers, people who expect, people who label, all of those things. Power shield, it's time to put that up and just say, look, I see what you're doing, and I'm not going to participate in that conversation or that action that you're taking because I'm going to take the high road. But I also think the second thing in terms of confidence is really every time you walk into a room, you bring your assets, your attributes, all of those things that make you special and make you you. And much like my girl leadership summits, these girls, they show up and at first they kind of feel like, oh, I'm different. I'm not like anybody else here. And I say, exactly. That's great. And start to celebrate that. There was a girl who spoke at our summit and she just felt terrible because she was so tall. And I said, "Oh my gosh, tall is magnificent. That's beautiful. You know." And then she started talking about it. And afterwards, she made really good friends with someone who was short. And she called herself Too Short. And guess what? They left friends. And
Nice.
those are the kinds of things that I say, recognize, embrace the attributes that you might have thought in your mind were your, let's call them weaknesses, or maybe you were insecure about those, and really bring those and elevate those. And that will really help your confidence level.
Love that. Love that. And I bet if you took a poll of your audience and said, how many of you think you're too tall? You'd have had a lot of hands raised. Or how many think you're too short or too fat or too skinny, right? Like, because we all tell ourselves those stories, and it's a lot of acceptance as to who we are. So I love what you're saying with, your true blues. I love the hashtag JBU, just be you, because who else can you be? Just you. Like, that's beautiful. Well, anything else that you would want to make sure our audience walks away with today, Kristi? Including make sure they know how to reach you, because I'm sure that, some of our moms out there have lots of questions about the Girls Leadership Summit. How do they get involved in that? Maybe just share, if you don't mind, take a moment and share some of that information.
Yes. And one thing I do want to leave your listeners and the viewers with is really recognizing that a girl is watching, and what is she learning? There was a campaign I did years back, which we were working on leadership and esteem in girls. And that was really what our slogan was a girl is watching, what is she learning? And we did it with the Girl Scouts. And, I do speeches across the country, interviews across the country. I'm very engaged and involved in this space. And what I find is oftentimes, if a mom is posting bikini pics of herself or something like that, and all of a sudden we find that the daughter is doing the same thing, a girl is watching. What is she learning? So we have to watch our actions too. And if we're doing things that are maybe out of sync with what we want our daughters to be doing, we need to be aware of what our girls are picking up and what their messaging is. I'm not suggesting that that's a bad thing. I'm suggesting that we just need to watch, because girls will do, and kids in general will do what we're doing. So very often. So that's really important. And I think also allowing our viewers to let their daughters' voices be heard, giving them opportunities to be in a girl summit, to speak, to reach out, to step out, to use their voice for something that they feel really passionate about. That's important. So girls
huge.
and women. And it's hard, because we know that girls 11 to 17 are very shy at that age. And it's very hard to plant the seeds of confidence and speaking up and speaking out at that age, because they don't want to really step out too much in some cases. So, so yes, people can find me at KristiKMedia. That's KRISTI, the letter K, media.com. Also on Instagram, same, and Twitter, Facebook. So yes.
Okay. Beautiful. And we'll make sure that, the audience can see how to reach you. So I want to just go back real quick because I know we have to wrap up here, but I want to go back to something you said about they're watching, they're listening, and helping them express their voice. And you made me remember when my daughter was I think she would have been about 8, and she was being bullied on the bus. And she was getting so upset, and she would be like, "Mom, drive me to school. I don't want to have to deal with this girl." And so I said to her, maybe we need to go and have a conversation with the mom and the daughter. And my daughter was like, "Oh my gosh, no." And I go, "Yeah, I think we need to confront this." And she was like, "Mom, I can't." And I said, "Yes, you can." And so just as a tip, I had her write down exactly what she wanted to say to this young lady. Right. And anyway, we went and we knocked on the door, and we had a conversation, and my daughter felt so empowered, because she said, "I don't understand why you're treating me this way. Help me understand it so that I can, if I'm doing something wrong, I can correct it, but I don't deserve that." And so it was probably the first time she really learned to express her voice. And the young girl did it again And so I said to my daughter, I go, how do you want to approach it? So to your point about really listening and getting them to take ownership is so important. And I watch her now, because now she's, 17, almost 18 years old, and she has no issues with expressing when someone is treating her poorly, or if they're treating her friends poorly. She is that voice to say, help me understand, not accusing, but help me understand. Why do you think it's okay to talk to somebody like that? So anyway, I just wanted to share that because to what you're saying, it makes such a difference.
What a powerful story. And what you did is you gave her that gift at the age of 8. You planted that seed of confidence and self-empowerment that, can't be missing. And thank goodness she had you as her mother to be able to kind of guide her and help her through that. So then she could take that baton and run with it from there. And the gift of self, SELF, self-love, self-trust, self-worth, self-esteem. I say if we can give that to our girls and our boys at a young age, to be able to feel good about ourselves, to have the self-confidence, the self-esteem, and then knowing the worth that they have every time they show up in a room, that's a beautiful thing. And that's confidence.
Yes, it is. Oh, love it. Kristi, oh my gosh, you're singing my songs here. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been absolutely fabulous, and I'm sure our audience will have more questions. So they can reach out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So wherever,
LinkedIn as well, yes.
Yes, if you have questions, please reach out to Kristi. You can reach out to me and I will send them to Kristi, but we'll get you answers on how do you really help our young people start to thrive in our environment is tough. It's volatile. It's very tough. And so we want them to be thriving, independent human beings. So thank you for that. You've given some great tips to the audience today, and surround yourself with your true blues audience. And that goes to all of our grown-up women, because we also suffer from some of the same, voices of not being enough, or our confidence may be lacking. And so build those true blues around yourself. Take the tips that Kristi has shared. These are all ways to help you be more fully who you're meant to be. So we want to thank you. We know you have a choice as to what podcast you listen to. So thank you for joining us today and hearing this conversation. And if you're curious about your own leadership, you can go on our website at WIL Empowered, that's one L, WILEMPOWERED, and take our leadership quiz. That'll give you insight, and you can have your daughters take that quiz. It'll give you insight as to what questions you might want to ask Kristi, or you might ask me. So, we're grateful for you for being here, and we look forward to having you on our next show. Kristi, thank you again, and appreciate you spending your time with us today.
Thank you.